Jutta.
Hari Om everyone. Today we are starting this next class on Kathopnishad. This is the 12th class, and we have covered so far this second part. We are into the second Valli of the Pratham Adhyaya, the first chapter, part 2. So we have seen so far that there are uh, altogether three chapters or two chapters with three parts each. So out of this, we are into three chapters with three parts each, sorry. And this is the second chapter. We have covered up till the 20th verse so far. We had also done the 21st verse, which we will now continue. We need to add some more points in here. So that I will add. So let's start with the chanting first. Those of you who can chant, you can chant at your end, and the rest will continue. ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणं ब्रह्मणस्पत आन शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् ॐ श्रीमहागणपतये नमः सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Okay, so far we have seen this part of the Kathopnishad where we have covered up till the 20th verse, where we had tried to understand the all-pervasive nature of this consciousness, this Atma, being all-pervasive and all-present. So for that, here onwards, the verses that are there, they are a bit subtle. So we have to be careful in understanding them, because once we understand them, the rest of it will be much more clearer later on. So that is why I will take time with the concepts also, the basic concepts, so that whenever these concepts arise over here, then we can understand as they come up in the coming verses. So when we are talking about this Atma here, this Atma is to be understood as Sat Chit Anand Rupa. We are using the common term consciousness mainly because that is the part that is easier to understand. The others are associated. So Chit is consciousness, Sat is existence, and Anand is its infinite nature. So together they are only one entity, one Atma, having these properties, or not exactly properties, but that is its Swarupa, that is its nature, right? In nature in regard to the world. When you remove the world, then there is nothing to compare to. All these three merge into one only. So when we are looking at the next verse, the riddles will continue. It is presented like a riddle, because in Vedic language there is no absolute truth. The absolute truth is inexpressible in words. So therefore we indicate by indicative language. So all the possibilities, so that all the possibilities are covered. So when all possibilities are covered, that means there is nothing left out of which we can exclude. कुछ भी ऐसा नहीं है जो आत्मा से परे है, सब कुछ आत्मा के अंदर है. Everything is Atma. So we'll just look at the verse first. आसीनो दूरं व्रजति शयानो याति सर्वतः कस्तं मदामदं देवं मदन्यो ज्ञातुमर्हति आसीनो दूरं व्रजति शयानो याति सर्वतः कस्तं मदामदं देवं मदन्यो ज्ञातुम अर्हति. तो आसीनः दूरं व्रजति and then शयानः याति सर्वतः. कः tam, this custom, the visarg kaha is converted to sa. So kaha tam mad amadam devam, then mat anyaha gyatum arhati. So we saw the meaning here that this atma, even though it is seated somewhere, it is located somewhere in time and space, it can still go uh, eternally or infinitely in either directions. Duram. And then Shayano Yati Sarvata. Even while it is sleeping, it can travel all over the places or to all places. And who is that? Kahatam Mad Amadam Deva. Who is that shining light of consciousness? What is that shining light of consciousness? That is both of the nature of joy and joylessness. Mad and Amadam. Also, this one is translated as Mad and Amad because in Sanskrit, after Sandhi, A plus A will also become A and A plus A will also become A. So if it is Amadam, that means the nature of supreme joy. So we'll look at this. So this consciousness, this shining consciousness by which everything is known. Without this consciousness, nothing can be known. So Mad Anya, who else beside me can know this consciousness? This is Yamadharmaraja speaking. Mad Anya, mere se bhin. Apart from me, who else can know? So first we have understood earlier also the nature of this consciousness. So what have we seen? First one is the Samanya Chaitanyam, which is everywhere, right? The Samanya Chaitanyam, which is not cognized by the sense organs, but it is known because whenever I know something, whenever I know any object, that means that object is being known to the power of consciousness. Without that, nothing can be known. So all the worldly knowledge that I'm having, it involves what we call a triputi, union of three things. So the knower, known, and the instrument. So the knower is the consciousness, and the known is the object of the consciousness, the objects of the universe, and the instrument is our mind and sense organs, man or jnanendriya. So through this triputi, we know anything in this universe, right? So also another aspect of this is what we call vritti vyapti and phal vyapti, the Vedantic theory of how everything is known. So how do we know something? Whenever we want to know something, how do we know it? First of all, our mind travels to the object. Our mind will travel to the object, and this mind will then. No, Jivatma is not an object. Jivatma is the subject itself. So Sanjay ji is asking questions. So when we are talking about this Jivatma, then this Jivatma is the consciousness itself. But right for now, it is the reflected consciousness, the consciousness reflected to the reflecting medium. Right. So when we are looking at this consciousness, then this consciousness is so this the general consciousness is samanya chaitanyam, which is everywhere, and then there is the vishesha chaitanyam. So this vishesha chaitanyam is what is reflected by the mind, right? So for this there is an example we saw earlier also given by Vidyaranya Swami in Panchadashi, so where he says that you can experience the sunlight everywhere. Wherever you see any wall, there is sunlight falling on it, you can tell that the sunlight is there, right? That is the Samanya Chaitanya. You can compare it to the Samanya Chaitanya. And then further, yeah, there is a flickering of the video. It's not your computer, something to do with my screen. I'm not able to rectify it. So please bear with me. Yeah. So this Samanya Chaitanyam can be compared to the sunlight which is everywhere. And then you place a mirror. You take a mirror and you reflect that consciousness onto a specific part of the wall. So that reflection will be brighter than the actual sunlight. So what will happen there? The reflection will overpower the sunlight that is already there. So that does not mean that the sunlight is gone, but that reflection will overpower it. So similarly, the mind is like the reflecting medium. Mind is the reflecting medium. And when it reflects the consciousness, it gets what we call localized. एक जगह में स्थित हो जाता है. It becomes located in a particular area, right? So because it is located, because of this location of this consciousness, or in the case of light, the sunlight, you can see it separately, but that does not mean that the general sunlight is not there. Similarly, with the Samanya Chaitanyam, the Samanya Chaitanyam is the consciousness pervading through everything, it is everywhere. But the Vishesh Chaitanyam, the Vishesh Chaitanyam is the one that is functioning through the mind. So when it functions through the mind, it appears to be located at one place. So when I ask you where you are, where are you sitting, and you say that I'm sitting in the room or I'm sitting in my house, that means you are talking about your body or the body mind complex, right? So you are not owning up to your true nature in that case, right? But if you have understood the true nature, then you will say, where am I not located? कहाँ नहीं हूं मैं? I am everywhere. Right. So that is when you understand that, then only will you move beyond the joy and sorrow of this world. You will move beyond all the joys and sorrows. So I'll just share this again. So because this consciousness is available everywhere, but only when the mind reflects it, it becomes localized. So then that is what we call the waking state, Jagrit Avastha. So in Jagrit Avastha, the mind is functioning. But in what happens in deep sleep? In deep sleep, the mind has gone into hibernation. Yeah, the mind is no longer available. So when the mind is no longer there in deep sleep, then what happens is that due to the mind being unavailable, there is no reflection. So in that case, I do not relate with any localized area. I don't see myself as limited in any place. So at that time, but the consciousness is there. So where is the consciousness? It is everywhere. It is not located within the body. For the person who is watching me, for the person who is watching me, I will be localized in a particular area. But for me, the person itself, it is not localized, right? So same thing with any kind of duality within ourselves. So when someone can be good and someone can be bad, right? So for the person who is watching that person, that person will be good or bad. So whenever a person does something good, he says the person is good. Whenever he says does something bad, he says the person is bad. But when I'm looking at myself, then when I'm looking at myself, then I know that the good and bad both exist within me. I am not the good and bad. So then I can separate myself from the activity around me. So this is the way we also separate ourselves from the actions that are happening. This consciousness is not doing any action. Where is the action happening? The action is happening only the mind. The mind is reflecting the consciousness. So for the mind, it is this action that is happening. So when the mind is reflecting, then what is happening? He takes on the role of what we call the doer, karta. Mind becomes the karta because whenever an action is being done, the mind says, I am doing it, right? And then when it becomes a karta, whenever we do any action, what will happen? Whenever we do any action, we will get a karma phalam for that. Phala. And so when we get the karma phalam, then the phala also will be enjoyed by whom? By the mind again, mind and sense organs, right? So then the mind becomes the bhokta. Mind becomes the bhokta. So when the mind becomes karta and bhokta, then I am functioning, the consciousness is functioning through the mind. So the consciousness we call, it takes the upadhi. Consciousness thinks it's the mind, right? Consciousness is deluded, right? So this is the reason why the consciousness appears to be doing anything, but actually the consciousness is not doing anything. So once you understand this fact that the consciousness is not doing anything, then you can clearly know that the consciousness is abhokta, consciousness is akarta. So that is, it is nishkama. It is nishkama. So what happens when it is nishkama? Then when it is nishkama, then you can know your true nature. How? How can you know your true nature when you're nishkama? When kamana happens when I enjoy an object, right? When I enjoy or when I'm attached to an object. So when this desire are there, my mind is disturbed. My mind is disturbed. So when I try to do any meditation, my mind will wander here. It will go here and there, right? Why? Because there is some desire within me. Some kamna is there within me. When this kamna is removed, when I understand myself as the non-doer, then these vibrations of the mind will no longer be there. Then I can actually know my true nature. Then I can turn my mind towards the true nature. So there is another very beautiful work by Vidyaranya Swami. We talked about Panchadashi, but there is another one where he has traveled, he has explored all the 12 Upanishads, all 12 Upanishads. So 12, there are many, but main 12 Upanishads he has commented on. That is called Anubhuti Prakash. So in Anubhuti Prakash, he has written a commentary in verse form, in the form of a verse, in a form of shloka, right? So mostly, like if you have heard of Shankaracharya Bhagwan, he has written what we call a bhashya, that is in prose form. The meaning is written in sentence form. But Vidyaranya Swami has written the meaning, expanded on the meaning in a verse form. So when that verse is being uh, verses are being used, that is used to express in more detail what is expressed in the Vedic mantras. So mantra is short or very concise, but with the shlok that is presented in that book. So there he gives us a lot more deeper meanings of these verses itself. So now what we have I hope it is clear, this consciousness, Samanya Chaitanyam and Vishesh Chaitanyam, right? Samanya Chaitanyam does not travel, Vishesh Chaitanyam travels. Vishesh Chaitanyam is the mind traveling. Even after death, it will travel. After death, the mind is reflecting the consciousness, but in less form. But because of the other part of the body which is there, what is that other part? That is the Karan Sharir. Karan Sharir is there. So Karan Sharir consists of our what we call the Vasanas, our hidden desires. So those hidden desires will push us to go for another body. It will go searching for another body where it can enjoy all its pending desires, or what will be the desires that can be born out in one जन्म, जो एक जन्म में पूरी हो जाएंगी इच्छाएं. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड इज प्रारब्ध कर्म. सो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट वासना, द टेंडेंसी ऑफ दैट कारण शरीर will be to carry the man, buddhi, and all the sukshma sharira into to the next body. And what is needed for that? Karan sharir is jadam. It does not have any consciousness of its own. Right? So that reflected consciousness will be there. That reflected consciousness will carry the mind to the next body, right? So while we are in this body, here also we travel wherever we go. So that is mainly in the Jagrita Avastha. So that is why here Asinah Duram Vrajati. So very long introduction for this small word, but we have to know clearly what we are talking about. So Asinah, so this consciousness, even while it is Asinah, even while it is situated in a particular place, it can go afar. So Asinaha is what? When it is functioning through something localized. Localized. एक स्थान में है, स्थित है, बैठी हुई है. It is sitting somewhere. So when it is sitting somewhere, then it is the mind functioning, and therefore it is situated in a particular place. Yet it can duram vrajati, yet it can go far also. How? Because the samanya chaitanyam, the vishesh chaitanyam is functioning through the mind, but the samanya chaitanyam is everywhere. So also we can understand, because the samanya chaitanyam is all pervading, sarva vyapak. It is everywhere. So then where does it need to go? It is everywhere. So that is why Duram Vrajati means, in other sense, it is present at the farthest of the farthest places. Okay? And then Shayano Yati Sarvatah. When it is sleeping, it can still go everywhere again. How? Because when I'm sleeping, what is happening? In deep sleep, the Vishesh Chaitanyam is gone. In deep sleep, mind is not there. Man nahi hai. Mind is not there. So mind is not there. That means the Samanya Chaitanyam is there. And Samanya Chaitanyam is where? It doesn't have a location. So Yati Sarvataha. It is everywhere. So the Samanya Chaitanya is present all over. because there is no mind, there is no thoughts for us to bind ourselves to a particular location, right? Also, like whenever we are uh, in a thinking mode, then I can be sitting here while my mind is going shopping. My mind is going to the market. My mind is buying stuff, or my mind is seeing some. I'm here only, right? My mind can do. So in this way also, the mind can travel to other places. So this consciousness has a strange property that it can be in one place and yet it can be at all places also. So that is the beautiful beauty of this. So it is not like all the objects of this world, right? So in these objects of the world, we have to understand they are always localized. The object will have a shape, right? So here we'll just add one more small topic to this shape thing. That is the concept of mithya. So what is mithya? Mithya is something that has a dependent existence. Yeah. Once again, mithya is something that has a dependent existence. That is dependent upon its existence on something else. So all the objects that we see in the world, they have what we call a material. And that material is the cause. And then the second part is the shape or form or color. So that shape is the uh, material molded into different shapes and sizes. Just like one mud can be molded into different shapes and sizes, right? Similarly, other than the mud, the other than the mud, there is nothing else besides mud. All the shapes merge into mud only, even though we give different names. So names are pot, spoon, uh, katori, or whatever names we have, different utensils, or an idol. So all these are what? They are mud only. They are mud only. So there the material is one, shapes are many. So this shape is mithya. Akar is mithya. And in Chandogya Upanishad, it is said, Mrittika eva satyam. The mud is the reality. So this we are taking for any one material object. We can take it for any kind of material objects. Like from wood, we can make different kinds of furniture. Like from gold, we can make different kinds of ornaments. So in all of them, the reality is wood or the reality is gold, right? So here the gold we can perceive, the object also we can perceive, right? But what happens when we ultimately resolve the material to more subtler things? Everything is composed of even smaller things that you can't see, right? So what are those things? The atoms, the molecules, right? They make up these. So all these atoms and molecules come together and they form a certain shape, and then they are perceivable. So there what is happening? The material also you cannot perceive. So that also condition happens where the matter is not perceived, but material is not perceived, but the shape is perceived, right? And when you go even more subtler, you go to the highest level of what is the Atma. So Atma is so subtle that it is beyond perception, right? Because it is the perceiver itself. It is the perceiver itself. So being so subtle, yet it can give rise to multitudes of shapes by projection, what we call the power of Maya Shakti. We call it the Vikshep Shakti. So Maya has two powers, Vikshep Shakti and Avaran Shakti. Maya has two powers, Vikshep Shakti and Avaran Shakti. So Vikshep Shakti, by Vikshep, it projects the whole world of names and forms. And then this Avaran Shakti, it covers our eyes, as it were. It envelops us so that we are unable to see the reality. We are unable to cognize the reality, know the reality, right? So that is the power of Maya. So because of this power of Maya, all these objects of the world, including the mind, are created. And because the mind is a projection, it is not does not have any uh, independent existence of its own. It is what we call everything that is having a shape, or everything that is born out of this Maya in this way, we call it Jadam. So there is a rule for this. Whatever you can see, that is Jadam. Yad Drishyam, Tad Jadam. And whatever is Jadam, that can always be destroyed in time. It will lose its existence in life. And then again, another rule we add, Yat nashtam tat mithya. Whatever is can be destroyed, it is mithya because it has only temporary existence. Right? So all the objects of this world, including the mind, they are they will exist within time. So they will destroy within time. So this rule from Vedanta, always remember. I have quoted earlier also. Yad drishyam tad jadam. Yad jadam tat nashtam and yat nashtam tat mithya. Right? So this applies to all the shapes and sizes, all the shapes and objects of the world, shapes and forms. So these objects are merely a projection on the ultimate reality, which is this Atma. Atma is of what nature? Satchit Anand Rup, of the nature of consciousness, existence, bliss. So, Kastam Madam Madam Devaha. So, who is that Atma Devam, that shining, effulgent reality? Kahatam, who is that? With Madam and Amadam. So, that consciousness is with joy and without joy. So, with joy, how? Whenever we bind our mind to an object, we call it, we experience a certain kind of joy with that. So that is madam. Madam also means what we call ghamand in Hindi. It means pride. So why? Because whenever we experience something, we have the nature of associating with that our sense of doership or the sense of ahankar that I have done this thing. So a lot of people will tell they keep whenever you talk to them, I've done this, I've done that. We all do that. So we take up ownership of the actions. So whenever I'm taking the ownership of action, what is happening? I am associating myself with the mind body complex, right? And but when I give up that kartritvam, then I am associating myself with the Atma. So kahatam madamadam devam. Who is that Atma? Who is that consciousness that can be both with joy and without joy? How is it without joy? When there is no object present. So there no joy is expressing itself. Of course, Ananda Swarupa is there. Ananda represents that it does not need any external object for it to be for it to have any joy. So that is another aspect. But the worldly aspect is what? In respect to the world, whenever the world is not there, the worldly objects are not there. There is no expressed joy. There is no expressed joy by this Atma. So kahatam mad amadam devam and mad anya gyatum arhati. This also we saw. So mad anya, who else other than me can know this Atma? So you might think that Yamaraja is talking of himself in a very proud way. No, we happen to see this whenever we study also under some guru. So the guru is talking from the sense, from the level of the Atma. He is always talking from the level of the higher reality. Who inspires him? No, so a guru will say that I am saying this. So where you might ask, someone will ask, where have you read this? So it is not necessary you would have read it somewhere. He could have a direct experience of it also. But yes, someone else might also have the same experience. So he can quote to you, but always the quote will not be available. So Madanya is here, he is talking in two ways. One is that he says the person who has controlled himself. What is the name of the person who's talking here? Yamaraja. Who Yama means what? Who has controlled. Yama means controlled his sense organs, controlled his longing for sense objects, and therefore he has directed his mind towards the Atma. So that is one aspect, one way of looking. And the same way, Shankaracharya Bhagwan also adds that here is talking about both himself and Nachiketas, or any person who has focused himself internally. And the higher aspect, what is the highest aspect? He knows the Atma. So that means he's talking of himself as Atma. He's not talking about the body that you see Yamaraja, the one who catches the souls and takes them to heaven or hell or whatever they deserve. He's not talking about that Dharmaraja. He's talking about himself as Atma. So the Atma can know only itself by itself. There is no other second thing needed. Do you need someone to tell you that you know something or that you exist? You don't need anyone. So similarly, Atma also, when I'm talking about myself as Atma, then there is no medium needed. It is mediumless knowledge. Bina Vishaya ka Gyan. There is, for Atma Jnanam, it is without any kind of instrument or without any kind of medium is needed for this knowledge. So therefore, here whatever he has expressed here, uh, Yamaraja, he is talking about himself as the Atma. So as the Atma, I have known all this. So when we see this consciousness here so far, we have seen clearly that uh, we are talking about the Samanya Chaitanyam. As long as our association is with Samanya Chaitanyam, I will never think of myself as a Karta or Bhokta. So here also a very beautiful example is given by Vidyaranya Swami. He says, you can compare this Nishkam person, a person who's without any kind of kamana, and the word will come later also, the person who's without, then his clarity has increased, right? Because why? Because whenever we are our mind is surrounded by vasanas, mind is what we call suppressed by vasanas, we cease to think clearly. But when I give up my vasanas and become nishkamaha, then I am able to focus. So this person's becomes like a microscope. He can see what is more subtle. So we also have to make our self more subtle so that we can understand. So we have to suppress or we have to rise above our desires. We have to understand that I am not the doer. So when I do that, then I am able to turn myself inward and express or understand this true nature of mind, myself as Atma, right? As long as vikshape is there, as long as the vishay or the objects of the world are there, and I have a rag or dvesha towards them, I have an attachment or hatred towards them, my mind will flicker always. So once I give that up, then my buddhi will become what? My buddhi will become my eye. My my vivek will become my microscope. And through that, I can see what is the subtle Atma. Of course, you cannot see the Atma. I can understand the nature of Atma. So that is how we have to take it. So asinaha duram rajati shayano yati. This is all pervading Atma is both beyond joy and joylessness, and it can be known only by the person who understands himself as Atma, who understands himself as Atma. So this Jnani, what will happen to the Jnani? He identifies with the Samanya Chaitanya. The Jnani will identify with the Samanya Chaitanya, the eternal consciousness. What happens to Ajnani? The Ajnani will identify with the Vishesha Chaitanya. He will think I am the mind or whatever the consciousness is reflected towards the mind. So we move on to the next one. I hope it's clear. This one, I took some time because there are so many subtle topics into this. Okay, so we are looking at the 22nd one. Ashariram sharireshu अनवस्थेषु वस्थितं महान्तं विभु आत्मानं मत्वा धीरो न शोचति अशरीरं शरीरेषु अनवस्थेषु वस्थितं महान्तं विभुमात्मानं मत्वा धीरो न शोचति अशरीरं शरीरेषु अनवस्थेषु अवस्थितं महान्तं विभुम Atmanam matva dhiraha na shochati. So this Atma is a shariram sharireshu. It is without a body and yet it functions through all the bodies. And then anavastheshu avasthitam. It is the permanent one. Avasthitam. It is the permanent one. Man. Among what? Among whom? Anavastheshu. Among those that are not permanent, in the impermanent. Then Mahantam. It is large, it is beyond all the objects of the world. And yet Vibhum, it is yet all pervading. So Matva Dhiraha na shochati. So the person who has known this Atma as such, he does not grieve, he does not have any kind of sorrow. So having known this Atma, which is bodiless, which is the permanent one in the impermanent bodies, which is big, all pervading, big and all pervading, the person of discrimination, Dhira Purushaha, that person does not grieve. He does not have any kind of sorrow. Right? So in this verse, we are looking at the all-pervasive nature of this Atma, Ashariram Sharireshu. So even though it is functioning through the Shariram, it is Asharir itself, it is beyond all the bodies, it is passing through them. So just like you can visualize the space, you can visualize space. So what happens to the space? The space is present through in and through all the objects. It is present in the smallest of gaps of every object, right? Even the gaps we say are pervaded by that space only. So there is only one space. Even though there might be objects in between, they are not dividing that space. It is just a visual illusion that the space is being divided, but it never gets divided. Same way, Atma also is all pervading. It is everywhere. Ashariram Sharireshu. All the bodies are functioning because of it, and it is passing through all of the bodies. And even though it is the adhishthanam, avasthitam, it is the substratum. It is the substratum on which everything is existing or functioning. Yet, all the objects of the world, what are they? Anavastheshu. They are temporary, impermanent. So, all these impermanent objects, they exist because of this Atma. And what is this Atma itself? Mahantam. It is bigger than the biggest. It surpasses all the objects of the world. It is even beyond them and within them also. And Vibhu. It is going through all of them. It is not that Atma is somewhere separate and objects are somewhere separate or world is somewhat separate. No, it is everywhere. It is passing through them. Vibhu. Vibhu means all pervading. Vibhum Atmanam. So the person Matva Dhiraha na shochati. So that Dhir Purush, the person who recognizes this Atma as such, he will never have sorrow. Why? Because he sees himself as the consciousness itself. The consciousness is not having any kind of kartritvam, right? Where does shok come? Where does sorrow come? Sorrow comes whenever we are attached to objects. Right? Whenever we are attached to objects, and whenever we think that I need that object, right? So when that object is needed, we strive to do any kind of action for this. So when we think that we are doing any action, then we become what we call karta bhokta. So whenever we do that, we get kind of joy and sorrow, both. But even the joy also are all short lived. After some time, they will also go away. So because of these joys and sorrows, we are able to tie ourselves down to this world, and so we have all these sorrows of the world. So, what about the Dhira Purusha, the Viveki, the person of knowledge or the person of perception or the person identified to the Samanya Chaitanya, who thinks of himself as Samanya Chaitanya? This person, he has nothing to grieve for because he doesn't have any attachment or identification, rather. He doesn't have any identification with these objects, right? The first identification is with the body. That is our deepest identification. So when the body gets hurt, we feel, I say I am hurt. Or when someone hurts my feelings, my mind, then I say I am also hurt. So I identify with my mind, I identify with the body. Similarly, outside objects also. This is mine. This is not mine. This is good. This is bad. Whenever I do this identification, I open myself to pain. So how can I be strong? How can I not be able to bear have any kind of pain? Matva dhiraha by constant mananam matva, by constant pondering over the nature of myself. Then I will not be hurt by the objects of the world. Right? I will. God internally, He will give me strength. How? Because I am turning myself inward towards God. God will give you whatever you ask for. Huh? It's not that whenever you do the required karma and you want something sansari, something related to the world, then He will give you that also. But what is your ultimate benefit that God knows as moksha? He knows as liberation. So that you have to ask, that you have to desire, then only He will give. Na? He cannot give you something you don't have any interest in. So when you have that interest, it should be such that you should know that when God comes in front of you and says, ask whatever you want, then what will be your desire? What will be your words? Mark that out clearly. If it is anything related to anything in the world, then you will be trapped. You will keep on coming. Of course, you will have good times, you will have good situations. He will guide you to the kind of amount of work you have to do to attain those objects, but the ultimate will remain beyond the grasp. So you have to have that desire, right? So matva dhiraha na shochati. The one who does not have or will not have any sorrow is the one who has tried to understand his true nature as ashariram. Ashariram sharireshu. I am the bodiless functioning through these bodies. And then we go on to the 23rd. It's a very beautiful and very common mantra. It is there in, this is the Kathopnishad, but it's there in the Mundak Upanishad also, with slight variation, of course.
I had one doubt.
Yes.
You mentioned that Atma is like everywhere. So, but my Atma can be at like one place only. No, like I didn't get that point.
Yes, because you are saying my Atma, then what is my Atma? You are identifying with the Atma that is reflecting through your mind, right? So you are identifying with the mind. Right. So my Atma is not nothing separate from the total Atma. The reflected sunlight is not separate from the original sunlight. It's the same sunlight only. But if I think of myself as the reflected sunlight, then I will be localized. I will be in a particular place. I cannot move apart from that. Wherever my mind can go or travel with my body, there only I can limit myself, my consciousness, my awareness will be limited to that. But if I identify, I understand myself as Paramatma, the ultimate Atma, right? The Atma without any kind of conditioning. Then I am everywhere. Then I am infinite. So once that is done, then I will cease to have any kind of limitations. Right now, my limitation is my identification. My identification. So with the identification, I think of myself as the source through which I'm functioning. Whenever I function through the body, we call it a reflected consciousness and reflected medium. So when the reflecting medium is the mind, then I become the reflected consciousness functioning through the mind. Whenever the reflecting medium is the body, I think of myself as the body, the the consciousness functioning through the body. So your Atma is not the consciousness that is reflected through your mind. Your Atma is everywhere. It is the infinite. Okay. So let's go to the next one. नायम् आत्मा प्रवचनेन लभ्यः न मेधया न बहुना श्रुतेन यमेवेश वृणुते तेन लभ्यः तस्यैष आत्मा विवृणुते तनुस्वाम् नायम् आत्मा प्रवचनेन लभ्यः न मेधया न बहुना श्रुतेन यमेवेश वृणुते तेन लभ्यः तस्यैष आत्मा विवृणुते तनुस्वाम् तो न अयम आत्मा प्रवचनेन लभ्यः न मेधया न बहुना श्रुतेन यम एव एषः वृणुते तेन लभ्यः तस्य एषः आत्मा विवृणुते तनुः स्वाम्. So now I am this Atma, this knowledge of the soul, this knowledge of my true nature is not available solely through. Just add the word solely. Not available through. Solely through pravachanam, through listening to shastras or listening to someone talking about the shastras, pravachanam, vani, by talking about that. Na medhaya, not through a very sharp intellect, and na bahuna shuten, not through too much of listening. Yam evesha vrunute. So this is available, this Atma is available to whom? To whom that Atma itself selects. Atma selects that person. Tena labhya tasya esha Atma. For that person, this Atma reveals, vivrinute. It reveals itself. Tanu swam. Tanu is body. Tanu swam means, Tanu means its own body. So what is the body of Atma? Its true nature. So swam Tanu. Swabhavaha, the true nature. Right? So here what is being said is this Atma is not available solely through pravachanams, whatever we listen to our gurus or pravachanams, nor through a very sharp intellect which has heard those pravachanams and not through too much of listening also. This is available only to the person who selects this Atma only. And then this Atma will reveal itself to this person. So here what is being said is that of course you have to go through the process. Of course you have to go through the process. That process is not being denied. That process is not being denied. But ultimately what will happen is you will have to give up what is called the ownership. You will have to give up the ownership. I know. I did this. I have studied so many shastras. So that is not a sufficient criteria. Someone might have studied so many shastras, and yet the Atma Jnanam will elude that person. Why? Because he is taking up the ownership of the known or the knowledge as the person, as the limited body, as the limited mind. So he is saying that this mind knows the Atma. Right? So in that sense, this Atma is not available. And another way there is looking at another way of looking at it is this, that na ayam Atma pravachanena labhya. Pravachan is what? Pravachan is something that is said, spoken, right? Pravachan. So that is the Vani. Vani is what? One of the karmendriya, right? So the karmendriya cannot know the Atma. Pravachanena labhya. The karmendriya. So this pravachan is a short symbolic form for the karmendriya. What are the five karmendriyas? Vak, Pani, Pad, Payu, Upastha. The Vani, Vak, Pani, hands, Pad, feet, the power of locomotion, Payu, Payu, the excretory organ, and the Upastha, the organs of enjoyment or reproduction. So the five karmendriyas are not able to cognize or know the Atma, right? Why? Because the Atma itself is beyond these. These are merely the instruments, right? So the instrument cannot know something more subtle than it. The karmendriya are not visible to you, but the Atma is even more subtler because you know the karmendriya. Atma is knowing the karmendriya. That means what? Atma is more subtle than the karmendriya. Then only it can know. Na? So the karmendriya cannot know the Atma. The reverse is not possible. So in your mind, you can visualize, no, the whatever actions your karmendriya are doing. And then na medhaya. This is or you can go to Shruten first. Na bahuna Shruten. So Shruten means hearing. Hearing represents the Jnanendriya. It is a symbol for the Jnanendriya. So Bahuna Shruteen represents the five Jnanendriya. So Shrotra, Chakshu, Twak, Rasna, Ghran, all the five or sense organs of knowledge. So when these are functioning, that means what? The sense organs of knowledge, the Jnanendriya also cannot know this Atma. Hmm? And then again, na medhaya. Medhaya is buddhi. So you can add here, you can call it the antakaran chatushtaya. Man, buddhi, chitta, ahankar, the four. So that you can replace for mentally for the medha. So this atma is, of course, when the mind is listening to pravachanams, the mind is, the buddhi is focusing them on trying to understand them. So Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasam, the Nididhyasanam, this threefold exercise is happening. Then when this is happening, ultimately what we call the jnana vritti, the vritti will be formed, right? So this vritti will be formed. And in this vritti, this vritti does what? This thought does what? It removes all other thoughts about the world. So when this happens, then my other thoughts will drop away, and the only thought will remain what? I am Atma. And then knowing or visualizing that thought or letting go of other thoughts means that you will have the knowledge of the self, the Atma Jnana. So all other thoughts are dropped away, right? So how does worldly knowledge happen? We saw earlier also by vritti vyapti and phal vyapti. So whenever we see an object, my mind will go to that object. It will envelop that object. It will fully cover it. And then it will take the shape of that object. Then that shape of the object will be carried to my mind. Right? So that is called the vritti vyapti. The thought will envelop the object. And the whole shape of the object is then taken into the mind. But can the mind travel to the object? No. It will have the consciousness associated with that. The which consciousness? कौन सी? Reflected. Reflected consciousness.
Reflected
Some Vishesh Chaitanya.
consciousness.
Right? So with this Vishesh Chaitanyam will have also travel. So we call Vritti Arudha Vishesh Chaitanyam. So this the Vritti or the thought is climbing or top of or riding the Chaitanyam, and it will reach there. And this Vishesh Chaitanyam will do what? It will illuminate. You cannot know something without light, na? Light to chahiye. Without light, you cannot know something. So this is the light. Consciousness is the light by which that object is illuminated. And then the knowledge of that is born that this is a ball, this is a table, this is a chair, or whatever object the mind is cognizing. So this is the Vedantic theory of cognition, how you know something, right? But this same process can you do with Atma? No, because no object is there, right? Only the subject is there. So the subject is known how? By removing all the objects. All the objects are removed, and then only remains I alone am. I am the Atma. I am the knower. There is nothing beside me to be known. So then what happens? All these thoughts will drop. Even the vritti that I am Atma will drop. Even that thought will go away. And only the pure consciousness remains only. So yam evesha vrinute ten swam. So whoever is accepted by Paramatma or this the Lord or the this Atma itself, he only can know this Atma. How? It's not that Lord here is being partial. Okay, we have to be very careful here. Lord is not being partial, right? But Lord can give us only what is our karma phalam or what is our desire, right? So if my desire is karma, my desire is Atma Jnanam, then only the Lord will select me to give this. He will not select me if that is not my target, right? So someone might have listened to all these pravachanams and all these read all these books and all, and still he will not be an Atmajnani. Why? Because still he is seeking for glory. Still he is seeking that I know I should know this so that whenever I speak among a galaxy of intellectuals, I should be able to dazzle them with my intelligence, and they should ask, "Oh, how such wonderful knowledge! How did you know this?" When as long as that thing is there, you are not in the right direction. You are only looking for worldly what we call uh, validation. You're looking for worldly validation कि कोई मेरी तारीफ करे, someone should praise me. So yam evesh vrinute, who will the Atma select? The person who has applied himself, who has given up, who has surrendered to this Atma, who has said, oh, yes, this is the only thing I want and nothing else. So that you can say a mumukshu, moktum ichha, the one who has the desire for moksha. So thus say Atma vivrunute. For that the person reveals its own nature. So for such a person, the Atma will vivrunute. It will totally explode with knowledge. It will totally reveal its true nature that is hidden in the layers of our ignorance. Our ignorance is hiding, right? So this Maya Shakti or this power of ignorance, it is hiding our true nature. So just like a tube light or a source of light is covered with dust. Once you remove the dust, the original light will shine through. So that dust of ignorance, that dust of uh, non-awareness of our true nature, once it is removed by Shastra or Pravachanam or Guru Shraddha or Ishwar Anugraha, this Atma is revealed. This Atma is revealed, then I cease to be in a state of bondage. I move towards liberation. I move towards knowing of all my true self, right? Then who is the person who cannot know? न विरतो दुश्चरिता दुरश्चिरात् न शांतो न समाहितः न शांत मनसो वापि प्रज्ञानेन न माप्नुयात् न विरतो दुश्चरितात् न शांतो न समाहितः न शांत मनसो वापि प्रज्ञानेन न माप्नुयात्. So the person who still has evil feelings within himself, na aviratah duscharita, who has not given up, who has not given up any kind of bad feelings, any kind of arrogance, any kind of desires, any kind of ill feeling towards others. So someone might be a very brilliant student, but still he is clouded by his bad desires. Still has, not just the positive desires, he has a lot of negative ones also. He loves hurting people, he loves showing off, and so on. So this person, duscharitat, his charitra, his character is not good. His character is not clean. So for that person, this Atma is not available. And this knowledge is not available. Na ashanta, na shant. So the person who is not calm, not peaceful, who's always wandering around with his desires, whose mind is always wandering or always occupied with its desire, and na asamahita. So the person whose mind and sense organs, man indriya, they are not in his control, right? So anything delicious he sees, he goes and eats it, even though if it is not good for him, right? So, and na ashant manasa, whose mind is forever wandering. So, for these kind of people, pragyan enam apnuyat. Na pragyan na enam apnuyat. So this person, he cannot attain this knowledge, pragyan, this knowledge of Atma, this highest knowledge, this knowledge of my own true nature. For that person, this is not available. So whenever we are on this path of knowledge, we have to understand that we cannot remain involved with our own worldly desires all the time. It is okay to be involved with them at the worldly level where you do these things for your survival, for the survival of your family, for the survival of your uh, the people dependent upon you. You keep doing that. That is okay, right? But to be so caught up in any desire that you cannot let go of it, that means you are still not on the right path, right? So it does not mean giving up the world or running away from the world. I have to separate myself. I have to compartmentalize myself, right? So this one compartment is the Vyavaharik Jagat, the transactional universe. So in this transactional universe, I will do, but always with the thought that whatever I am doing, I am not the doer, akarta. Huh. So with neshkarma siddhi, with neshkarma buddhi, with the nishkama buddhi, with the intellect that I am not doing anything. Whatever is being done by my jnanendriya and my karmendriya, who are guided by my vasanas or the you know, requirements of this world, whatever is the requirements of this mind and body. So once that is understood, I can continue doing my normal actions without any kind of uh, ownership of those actions, right? I can understand that they are a part of the natural survival of the body. So my greed will decrease. My greed will decrease. I will only accumulate whatever is needed for me, but my outgoing will increase. I will want to give more because the world has given me so much more. So I will want to keep on earning a lot more, but give a lot more. I will personally not enjoy a lot more, right? My input will decrease, my output will increase, right? So for that person, mm, duscharita, that person of wrong character, this Atmajnanam is not available. The person who has controlled his desires, for him only it will be available. And na shanta, whenever my mind is clouded by desires, whenever I am disturbed, so this person will not be able to move towards this this pragyan, this sukshma buddhi, this subtle intellect that will not be available to this person. Ashant manasa also, the person who's always wondering. So all these qualities are there that are negative qualities. First, you have to remove them, right? Then you have to increase the positive qualities. And then only this Atma Jnanam will be available. So the positive qualities we saw earlier. So by first you focus inwards, pravachan, medhya, all these will come, and then before that, also before going into that, you have to give up the bad qualities or the negative qualities. So once the negative qualities are given up, the positive will slowly start increasing, right? to slowly start increasing. And once they start increasing, you can assure yourself of being on the right path, and that right path will open up for you the world of Atmajnana, for the world of knowledge. Right? So we'll wind up for today. We'll maybe see a bit more of this in the next class, and then the final mantra of this part, this Valli. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om.